What is up, my beautiful people? My name is G-Vance and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the new album by Russ entitled Shake the Snow Globe. This is the long-awaited third studio album by singer, rapper, and producer Russ, aka probably one of the most hated artists in modern day times right now. And to be honest, the people that do have a problem with it and just don't like him at all, you guys actually do have some pretty fair reasons for it. I'm not even joking. Every time I go on Facebook and big time celebrity dies, I always have those 5 people that I have as friends who like share this post that always says it should have been Russ, man. And I was thinking to myself, that's kind of fucked up still, but I mean, okay, do you. This album is a follow-up to 2018 Zoo, which got a lot of mixed reactions from Russ fans and non-Russ fans and just hip-hop lovers in general, including myself. I actually didn't know how to feel about Zoo, and that actually put Russ in a kind of a bad place, and pretty much took 2019 as a little break to get his mind in the right place and get his shit together and just focus on making the music that he likes and just not worry about the negativity that he seems to be getting over the past few years and more like recently, because I feel like now more than ever people are starting to hate on him a lot. And so after taking a bit of a break and getting his shit together, this new album was born. Now, to be real with you guys, I personally am not that big of a Russ fan. I guess I wasn't following him when he was just starting out. I think I heard of him probably a few months after he got really famous when I was back in high school. I think the first time I ever heard a Russ song, a buddy of mine back in high school was actually showing me a song called Goodbye, which was a song that came from the album Pink Elephant. And that is his very early shit, before he became famous pretty much. I think that album came out in 2014, so it's a pretty oldish kind of album, I guess you could say. And then I would say maybe a year later, There Really Is a Wolf came out. I think I was a senior in high school when that album came out, and I gave it a chance because it was blowing up everywhere, and I was getting a lot of recommendations from it. And for that being the first ever full project of Russ that I've ever heard, I actually felt it was not too bad of a start, as it being his first official studio album as a mainstream artist, after being underground and independent for such a long time, since 2011. So he had a lot of work to do to get to where he is now, and that's, I do give him props for that one. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really hate Russ or have that big of a problem with him as much as the next guy does, because in my opinion, from what I've heard so far, I think Russ makes some pretty decent music, in my opinion, although I am a bit disappointed that he does have a shitty personality in real life and he's not really like the best person to be around sometimes if you were to know him on a personal level. I honestly, that has never really stopped me from saying, oh, his music is pretty decent, because at the end of the day, I don't really care about your personal life. I don't really care who you are as a person, because who am I to judge the way you live your life? Just as long as your music speaks to a lot of people and you're not just making music for the fuck of it, and it has a meaning behind it, that's all I care about. I mean, shit, I still listen to Kanye West, and he's a fucking crazy person right now. Not too many people like Kanye at the moment, but I still listen to him because the man is a fucking genius sometimes. For the most part, Kanye makes some pretty dope albums, although I'm not entirely too happy with Jesus is King, but you know what? We're not here to talk about Kanye. That's for another video. So after hearing the 44 minutes of music in this album, I gotta say that for me personally, this album is probably one of my favorites by Russ so far when it comes to the production side. As you all know, a big important aspect for me when I look for what's good in an album is always the production value, not just the lyrics, not just the meaning behind it, but the production value does a really big thing about it to make it good. And something that I've always admired about Russ is that all his past projects and the projects that he's doing right now are all self-produced by himself. So, you know, not that many artists can say that they've gotten like really like big and really like, I guess, successful in the music industry, you know, by just doing their own thing by themselves without a help of a big major label. So that's another thing I give Russ kudos for. And I personally would say that the production value in this album is a really big improvement from both There Really Is a Wolf and Zoo so far. And the only reason I'm only bringing up those two albums is because those are the only two that I've heard fully so far by Russ himself. And yes, this album does have the same sort of Russ vibe when it comes to the production value that a lot of fans fell in love with back then. But he does experiment a lot, you know, like trying to do like new sounds with sort of like trap beats and like some like I guess old school type beats, I guess you could say. What I really love about the production value in this album is that you can really hear a lot of like acoustic sounds in the background throughout every song. Like, you know, most of it is like guitars and, you know, ukuleles and shit like that. And at some point he does have like some piano to it. So I thought that was pretty dope. I didn't really know what to expect from this album because, you know, Russ hasn't really been like impressing me as much, although I do give him kudos for where he is now. But like as an artist, I don't know if I like see him as like a force to be reckoned with at the moment. But then that first track called Need a Minute came up, and I was like, the moment I heard that like ukulele happen, I was like, holy shit, like it's gonna be on a whole different level, and I'm ready for it. Aside from the production value, the features on this album are actually like a lot more diverse, and there's actually a lot of features that you don't really see much in a Russ album. If you were to look at There Really Is a Wolf or Zoo or just any other past projects by Russ, like he doesn't include that many like features, you know, like it's mostly just himself. So it's pretty great that he's like starting to get along with a lot more different artists, and he's trying to like contribute with some more like diverse artists outside of hip hop and stuff like that. And just, you know, he collaborates with a lot of like different artists in general that you would never think would sound good in a Russ song. Like for example, Russ once again teams up with Rick Ross on a song called Guess What. I'm pretty sure, I'm not entirely sure, but Rick Ross is on this album again, and you know, both Russ and and Rick Ross are like, you know, sort of doing like a big like flex mode and a bit like, you know, oh, look at how much I've achieved and whatnot, which you know, I'm totally fine with. You know, I don't mind him doing like a big flex and, you know, him like showing what he's achieved so far, because he did obviously go through a lot back then as an independent artist to get to where he is now. So, you know, another props to you on that, Russ. But aside from the big like flex mode and you know, the like hype, I guess, music, Russ does take a minute to be a little bit vulnerable, which honestly I feel like this album is the most like vulnerable I've ever seen Russ, because I feel like he's always like just like, you know, trying to be all hype, and, you know, just seeing him like express his feelings and, you know, talk about some pretty deep shit is pretty good. For example, there's this song called I Thought You Got Me, which I think that one is probably my favorite track on the album. And on that song he actually features Benny the Butcher from Buffalo, and he also is a part of the whole Griselda Records crew. And pretty much they're talking about like a relationship that didn't work out, and just like, you know, how like it mentally fucked with them. And, you know, seeing Russ being vulnerable about that is pretty dope, and you know, it's good that he's being open about it. But what surprised me is that for the first time ever, I think that's the first time I heard Benny the Butcher be a lot more vulnerable and a lot more open, which is something that is very out of character of him. If anyone has ever heard like any like Benny the Butcher song, he's like super hardcore all the time, you know, like don't text my gangster sort of stuff. And so hearing Benny the Butcher talk about a failed relationship and how he fucked with him mentally, and just, you know, him being open about like his past like problems with love, it's like, you know, it's something that I never thought I've ever hear, but for some reason it sounds super fucking good. So yeah, the features are like a big aspect of what makes this album enjoyable for me, at least. And although the production value is really good and the features are pretty fucking great for a Russ album, I would say that there are a few flaws in this album that makes me not enjoy it 100%. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great songs on here. I'd say that there is probably like 6-7 tracks on here that I do really like. But for the most part, I didn't really fuck with most of the songs here. I would say that maybe the first half of the album I wasn't really like feeling it, and then like as it got close to the like the last half of the album, it's when I was starting to get like a bit more into it and a bit more like starting to enjoy it. And it's not because I think that the rest of the songs are trash or because they're not like worthy to be on here. It's just I feel like I personally would like enjoy the album more if Russ didn't spend like a majority of it like, you know, bragging about how he's the most hated and about how no one can, you know, compare to him, how like, you know, it should be a crime that he's not as big or like as like recognized anymore. Like I get it, it must not feel good to like be known as like the most hated or like it must not feel good to not be as recognized, but it's like, you know, I personally would like love it if he didn't like, I guess, focus too much on the negative and just, you know, focus on doing him and not, you know, pay too much attention to the haters, because, you know, it doesn't really matter what anyone has to say, you know, as long as your fans love what you do, you know, that should like, you know, that should be the only thing that matters. It's like when Logic always finds the need to like, you know, say that he's biracial in almost every song he does and almost every album he does, and I'm like, you know, bro, like no one cares, just do your fucking thing, you feel me? Like no one cares. And it's a shame because I personally think that this is probably one of Russ's like best work so far in a fucking while, and it's like I feel like there are a few flaws that make me like not want to enjoy it 100%. Like I really wish I could give this 100% of like positive like vibes and whatnot, and like positive feedback, but at the same time it's like there are a few flaws that I just don't, that just kind of like kill it for me. This album is one of those albums where you know has a few songs that you don't like, but you still want to listen all the way through just to hear the few songs that you did like and did find enjoyable. And you know, it's one of those albums where you know has a lot of potential, but you know like Russ kind of like kills it on his own by like, I guess, just focusing more on like the negative feedback that he gets, you know, instead of just like ignoring the haters and just like doing his thing. So you know, it's an album that like will always make you like feel kind of good and kind of bad, you feel me? Overall, this album could be like a hit or miss for a lot of people, because the production value is really good and the features on this album are really great, and there are a few like songs that are really good because like Russ is opening up and like, you know, not like letting his ego like take over him. And at the same time, there are a few flaws like Russ's ego, for example, that still take over on a few songs that make it not that much enjoyable like for the whole like ride, I guess. And it's part of the reason why a few people don't like Russ as a person or as an artist in general. So I really hope he does changes his ways a bit and like, you know, like just focuses on doing what he loves and like, you know, not worrying about the negative shit. And then hopefully he will like make an album that is worth to a lot of people. At the end of the day, I do recommend this album to any of the longtime Russ fans, and to anyone who's not a Russ fan, I would say at least like, you know, give it a shot for the production value, because the production is really good. The features on here, all of them are really great, and just hear the like tracks where he's open and vulnerable, because I feel like those are the tracks that are a lot more better than the stuff that he's done like in the past. So yeah, and with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell down below, all that good stuff, so you don't miss a single one of my uploads whatsoever. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this album. I would love to hear your opinions about it. And with that being said, don't forget to stay happy.
You got me. You not like the rest. You want